Good morning, brothers and sisters. Have you shouted for joy yet? Have you laughed happily before Abba and the Lord? I sang and worshipped with brothers and sisters. We sang a hymn, This is the Father's Will. I really find we have the reason to be happy. We can burst out laughing not because we are self-consolation. We have the Lord who holds all the authority for us. He won the victory. He has defeated the devil and overcome the enemies. The victorious Lord has overcome all things, and He's holding all authority in heaven and on earth. All I have encountered are under His control. Shouldn't you suppose to burst out laughing? For the Lord who is holding all authority is not someone, but He is our beloved. The one who loves us most is holding all authority. Surely you can sit back and relax with full confidence, the most peaceful and carefree. Shall we sing a hymn? It's in Songs of My Heart too, Song 40, The Path of Faith. We will sing the third stanza. The Lord has risen and ascended to heaven. For me He lives and holds all authority. He can use all enemies and problems. He makes all things work together for my good. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. With faith I can overcome the world. With faith I never thirst. Living waters flows from my heart. I hope you have time to quiet yourself and respond to Him, or you can sing another hymn to worship the Lord. Let's have some time to be with Him face to face. You can stop the recording and we'll read the Bible when you're done. May the Lord bless you. Brothers and sisters, we'll read in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 1 to verse 30. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and they were gathered together at Socoh, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Socoh and Azekah in Ephesdammim. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and encamped in the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. The Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, the Israelites stood on the mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. A champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits, and the span went out. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he wore a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had bronze sheen armor on his legs, and a bronze javelin between his shoulders. The staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. His shield bearer went before him. He stood and cried to the armies of Israel, and said to them, Why have you come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine? And you servants to Saul? Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you will be our servants and serve us. The Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel today. Give me a man, that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. The man was an elderly old man in the days of Saul. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse had gone after Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest, and the 3 oldest followed Saul. Now David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. The Philistine came near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. Jesse said to David his son, Now take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers, and bring these 10 cheeses to the captain of their 1,000, and see how your brother are doing, and bring back news. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took the provisions and went, as Jesse had commanded him. He came to the place of the wagons as the army which was going out to fight shout for the battle. Israel and the Philistines put the battle in array, army against army. David led his baggage in the hand of the keeper of the baggage, and ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines, and said the same words, and David heard them. All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were terrified. The men of Israel said, Have you seen this man who has come up? He has surely come up to defy Israel. The king will give great riches to the man who kills him, and will give him his daughter, and will make his father's house tax-free in Israel. David spoke to the man who stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? The people answer him in this way, saying, So shall it be done to the man who kills him. Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the man. And Eliab's anger burnt against David, and he said, Why have you come down? With whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the evil of your heart, for you have come down that you may see the battle. David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? He turned away from him towards another, and spoke like that again, and the people answered him again the same way. Chapter 16, which is the previous chapter, mentioned the appearance of David, and he became the servant of Saul. And chapter 17 shifts from the peaceful palace to a new battlefield, a conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines, as the two nations clash along their border. Since this chapter is rather long, hence I will divide it into 2 parts. Verse 1 to verse 30 can be divided into 2 sessions. There was Goliath, a Philistine giant who challenged the Israelites. Then verse 12 through verse 30 were about David coming to the battlefield. The victory of David was written from verse 31 to the end, who was unlikely to win. However, David defeated Goliath and killed him. Though David was still young at this point and truly revealed his brilliance. I'll discuss this section of scripture next time. I can say the story of David and Goliath was well known in the world. Even the children know it. Hence, we'll read only verse 1 to verse 30 of this chapter without knowing the outcome yet. But we already knew David was the winner. Since we already knew the outcome, we may overlook some details and may not understand the chance of winning was slim. Truly, the faith of David was remarkable. In fact, that's not quite possible if I say to you just pretending not knowing the outcome and read the passage. As we all know that David defeated Goliath, I was deeply impressed when I read verse 1 to verse 30. Even a giant over 9 feet tall was insignificant. He could be defeated easily. So what should we Christians fear? As long as we have faith and rely on God, the devil and our enemies are vulnerable. We will win and triumph gloriously. more than a conquerors. Goliath defied the ranks for 40 days, but David defeated him in 1 second or less. Brothers and sisters, the devil has been attacking and tempting us for a long time. But whenever we use our secret weapon of faith, look upon the Lord, relying on Him and praying to Him, victory will belong to us. In fact, it takes less than a second, faster than a jab. Should we read verse 1 to 11 of this chapter? As we can see, Goliath stepping out from the Philistine camp to defy the army of Israel. He gave the Israelites a challenge. It wasn't merely challenging them. He was provoking and insulting the Israelites and even the God they believe in. No wonder David declared in verse 26 that he wanted to take away the reproach from Israel. David revealed in verse 45 that the curse of Goliath wasn't only upon the Israelites, but also the God of the armies of Israel. Therefore, this war was more than just a conflict or invasion between nations. It reached to another dimension, a showdown between the true God and false gods. It was a matter of the glory of God. Brothers and sisters, let us encourage one another. Never think that our daily lives are just the personal matters. Never think that it is purely a personal matter for us to overcome or lose over a temptation. For the spiritual battles which are invisible to our bare eyes, in fact, is for the glory of God and the fulfillment of His will. Every time we defeat our enemies, it is not just our personal victory, but also our victory in spiritual warfare that brings glory to God through our trust in Him. As we can see, it's so precious that our lives are closely related to God and His will. As a matter of fact, do Christians value this deep connection with God? Every believer shall glorify God in their own body, for we have all been purchased with a costly price. Therefore, never underestimate the significance of living a victorious life for the Lord, that is to draw near to Him daily. This will bring the most glorious victory day to day, and bring the greatest glory to the Lord, and the will of God will be fully accomplished. Let us come back and take a look at what a formidable challenger Goliath to David. His height was 3 meters, more than 9 feet. Even if the young David was 6 feet tall, Goliath would have been almost 3 feet taller than him. He was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 125 pounds. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he has bronze armor on his legs, and javelin of bronze between his shoulders, shaped like a spear. His spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. That's roughly 15 pounds. The spear's head alone weighed 15 pounds. As you can imagine how powerful this giant must have been. Truly, he was a terrible opponent. It was reasonable to be afraid of him, as it was a natural response of men. If you were standing before a giant, you would be afraid. Thus, when the Israelites heard the challenge of these giants on the mountain, they didn't dare to come down. Their fear was understandable. Their apprehension was excusable, for they truly had no assurance of success. The most terrible was not Goliath himself, but the people who has lost their faith in God. Goliath kept on insulting them for 40 days. I believe his words became more and more outrageous and arrogant, and I believe the degree of his insults to God grew even greater. I was impressed deeply in verse 16, which says, "The Philistine came near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days." That meant Goliath came out in the morning and again in the evening. He shouted day and night for 40 days. His diligence was far more surpassed than many who prayed. 40 days of unceasing scolding, certainly not kind words but foul language, blasphemy against God day and night. Yet not a single Israelite stepped forward, not to mention fighting. They didn't even respond to his words. Truly, if I were those Israelites among them, I was very shameful, for they were terrified and lacking in faith completely. Their God was blasphemed with filthy language for 40 days with no response. It was outrageous. Verse 11 says, When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Even the king was so frightened and cowered in the corner and dared not to say anything. When the above behave wrongly, the below will do the same. King Saul was unworthy to be king of Israel, for he disgraced God and disgraced the people of Israel. I think what the Israelites needed at this time was not a skilled warrior, not someone who could defeat Goliath but inspire the people, but the one who loved God and his glory, who treasured God and would fight for his glory, who would stand up for his glory, the one who was willing to sacrifice, to give himself for the glory of God. These qualities were the most precious. As we can see, David was the youngest son of Jesse. He happened to go to the battlefield because his father sent him to bring supplies to his 3 oldest brothers. He heard the cursing of the Philistines. Truly, David could not bear with it, but wanted to stand up. However, he didn't receive the revelation of God that the Philistine would be delivered into his hands and he would defeat them. Yet he was willing to stand. Can you feel the passion of David and his love for God? What David saw was a giant, the same giant, but this giant wasn't as terrifying as the Israelites imagined in his heart. How did he describe Goliath he saw? David described Goliath as, For who is this uncircumcised Philistine? As the one who loved God and drew near to God, what he saw was different from what ordinary people saw. He saw the glorious truth. He described Goliath as nothing more than an uncircumcised Philistine. That means Goliath was just an outsider, not belonging to God. Yet the Israelites were circumcised and belonged to God. David said in verse 26 that he should defy the armies of the living God. What he saw in his heart was that the armies belongs to God. God is the commander of the army, and this God is the living God who is invincible, immortal, and unbeatable. Brothers and sisters, what David saw was the spiritual truth, not the reality that the world saw. Many Christians nowadays who are lacking faith in God and fail to gaze upon his glory. They don't draw near to God. Thus, they are oppressed and captured by the harsh realities of life. These scriptures is an encouragement to me, and I encourage you all. Truly, we shall come before God more, that our hearts are captured by his glory, especially his love and many precious truths, to open our eyes to see the real reality. The real reality is that those who love God, all things work together for good. The true reality is that the Lord enables us to triumph together with him. The greatest issue for Christians is unbelief, insufficient faith, and closeness to the Lord. You will find even small things being magnified, growing as big as Goliath. Then anxiety, fear, and discouragement will follow. Brothers and sisters, an evil heart of unbelief, it makes small things become big and evil. But those with faith are the opposite. They make big things seem small and turn bad things into good, to manifest the glory of God. Brothers and sisters, it is a reminder to us to have passion towards God and filled with faith. Of course, David was not ignorant. He was a young man who knew the danger. He knew. When you read the end of chapter 17, you see he was very experienced indeed. He didn't win this battle on passion alone. He was well organized, strategic, and wise. Of course, the key to victory lay in God. It was God who helped him and acted on his behalf. I was thinking that verse 31 to 58, the later half of this chapter, could have been omitted. After David spoke these words, and the Israelite could have awakened. It is true that we can win if God is on our side. If the Israelites had united their faith at that moment, and they went to the battle with bravery, they could have defeated the Philistines and Goliath by relying on God. David wouldn't risk his life on his own to challenge Goliath. Think about it. Isn't that right? Sadly, the speech of David failed to stir the hearts of the Israelites. Yet, we should be grateful. We can see the courage of David, his wisdom, and his heart towards God from verse 31 to 58. This battle ended in victory and the glory of God was preserved. However, this was only one battle among many battles. We face many battles in our lives, many spiritual battles. The devil will not leave us alone. He walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. We shall rely on the Lord and draw near to him continually, to cooperate with the works of God with faith, and have the passion for the glory of God, his will and his plan. Yet, passion cannot be forced. Our passion for God purely depends on our relationship with him. Brothers and sisters, let us encourage one another continually. We shall be the one who draw near to God. It is not our duty to follow and serve God, but out of love. We will love him more when we deeply experience his love and enjoy his affection and deepen our friendship with him. Brothers and sisters, that's all for my sharing. It is the precious moment for you to deepen your friendship with the Lord. You can love him more and experience him more deeply. I believe you'll be another David in this age. You can fight for the glory of God and his will. May you enjoy your personal time with him. May you be the one after the Lord's own heart, like David. May the Lord bless you.